Welcome to Sustainability Now, an exploration of technologies and paradigms to shape a world that works. Designed for socially conscious entrepreneurs and individuals interested in responsible stewardship of the planet. Sustainability Now covers food, energy, housing, water, waste, health, economics, and consciousness. Welcome to your community, Sustainability Now, with your host, Mira Rubin.
Welcome, everybody, to Sustainability Now, Technologies and Paradigms to Shape a World That Works. I'm your host, Mira Rubin, and I'm delighted to introduce you to today's guest, Daphna Nissenbaum. And Daphna is the CEO and co-founder of TIPA Sustainable Packaging. TIPA produces fully compostable, flexible packaging for things like coffee, produce, snacks, and granola bars. And this packaging replaces conventional plastics. So thank you so much for being with us today, Daphna. I'm really excited to hear all about TIPA.
Thank you. Thank you, Mira, for having me today. Thank you for the opportunity.
We're glad to have you. So how about if we start out by talking about how you came about developing TIPA?
Okay. So actually it started a few years ago when I had a discussion with my kids about what they do with the packaging. And I heard such discussions all around me. And I thought to myself that within a few years' time, we will need a package that is not based on plastic. A package that can be based on other materials and replace plastic packaging. The first idea that came to my mind was an apple or orange, because when I eat an apple and I throw the residuals to the waste bin, it just decomposes. So the idea was to develop a package that we can treat the same way we treat organic materials or organic packaging. And the package will decompose and fully go back to nature the same way as any other organic material. So that's the basic idea, and that's how it started, to develop a package that is like an orange peel, for example, so the consumer can eat or drink the content of the package, and the package goes to the organic waste bin and decomposes like organic material, and that's what we did.
Wow. So I wonder if maybe we could talk about making some distinctions between fully compostable, biodegradable, compostable, bioplastics, all these different terms that are nuanced that people may not understand.
Sure. Very good question, because there's a lot of confusion in this space. So actually, plastic today, like conventional plastic, is usually fossil-based, but we can have conventional plastic which is bio-based, based on renewable resources. So we can have, there are conventional plastic materials like polypropylene or polyethylene, or that are based on bio-based materials, on bio-based polymers. The problem is still there. I mean, the problem of the plastic lasts forever, right? That's the main problem with plastic. So polymers that are based on bio-based materials will also, or those materials will also last forever. We don't really know. It might be 500 years, it might be 600 years, it might be 400 years or 1,000 of years. We don't really know. But conventional plastic, either if it's fossil-based or bio-based, lasts forever. Okay. Compostable polymers are polymers that within certain level of humidity and heat break down to small parts, and then those small parts are eaten by bacteria, and the bacteria creates the compost. So compostable polymers are polymers that break down within up to 6 months. I mean, disintegrate and biodegrade within up to 6 months in industrial compost environment. Those are compostable materials. So compostable packaging, either if it's bio-based or fossil-based, can be a variety of, partially bio-based and partially fossil-based, eventually breaks down within up to 6 months, breaks down. The disintegration process and the biodegradation process happens within 6 months. That's industrial compost.
So I have a question about fossil-based compostable materials. What is it breaking down to? Is the residual toxic?
No, there's no toxic in our materials.
Even though it's fossil-based originally?
Fossil-based doesn't mean it's toxic.
Right.
Fossil-based, the origin of the material is derivatives of oil, and bio-based is derivatives of renewable resources like plants.
So this is actually a really important distinction, is that just because it's fossil-based, if it breaks down, it doesn't mean that it's toxic. So can you speak a little bit more about that? Yeah.
Fossil materials are not necessarily toxic, okay? I will focus on compostable materials. Compostable polymers are chains of materials with monomers with connections. And a compostable polymer can be usually can be a combination of only fossil-based materials, or partially fossil-based, partially bio-based. Eventually, the chains of the material break down to small parts, and then those small parts are monomers that can be eaten by bacteria. There's no toxic in it, and there's no the level of the compost is not a toxic compost. So there's no toxation in those materials. So if we look in general at the materials, there are conventional plastic materials, and there are compostable materials. Both can be either bio-based or fossil-based. Regular plastic materials will last forever. We don't really know, but the estimation is it's hundreds of years. And compostable materials break down, and this is the disintegration process, and then biodegrade. That's the biodegradation process, 2 steps, within up to 6 months, as opposed to hundreds of years.
Okay, so one of the distinctions that you make in your products is that they are commercially compostable, and a number of them are home compostable.
Right.
So can you distinguish for us what the difference is?
Yes, of course. So first of all, at TIPA, let me start from the beginning. The world is manufactured today around 8.3 billion tons of plastic. Actually, we have been living the first trial of plastic. We don't really know the implications. One thing we do know, 8.3 billion tons of plastic was manufactured in the last 30 or 40 years until today. 5.8, so the majority, was used only once. Okay? The numbers today are that only 9% of the plastic that we manufacture is recycled. Only 9% recycled once, and 10% out of those 9% recycled twice. So one thing is sure, that plastic lasts forever. It's such a good material that doesn't go anywhere, okay? It just stays here. Every piece of plastic that was ever manufactured is still someplace around us, even if we don't see it. It's someplace around us, unless it was incinerated. But if not, it's someplace around, either in landfills or in the sea or other places. But that's a fact. Now, at TIPA, we focus on this. We focus on the end of life of the package. So if it lasts forever, let's solve that, because that's a major problem. The major problem that every package that we use today is going to be here way after we are not going to be here. Okay, so that's where we focus. We focus on the end of life of the package. That's why in TIPA we developed a packaging solution that can go not to landfill or recycling, but to a compost system. A system that was designed to handle food residuals, organic residuals, garden residuals, etc. So we designed a package that can go into that system. What is that system, the compostable system? The compostable system is either industrial composting, which is, as the name, it's industrial. It's huge quantities that go into a system that has a certain level of humidity and heat. The materials change their shape, disintegrate in this system, and then there are bacteria who just turn the waste into compost. Compost it's soil or fertilizer, you can use it both. So that's the industrial system. There's also the home compost system, which works in a lower level of humidity and heat. And therefore, there's it might take a longer period of time, but within a year, all the materials break down and change and actually change shape into soil.
Wow. Okay? Yes.
So those are the two systems. Now, the package or those materials also disintegrate, not only in those two systems, but then probably the time period is longer. Okay, so I cannot guarantee the 6 months or 12 months, but it's definitely not thousands of years. Okay.
And it's breaking down into something that is going to be replenishing the soil.
Yes, into soil.
Into soil. So one of the other things that I noticed on your website is that you mention on a number of different products that it's available in 20 to 30% bio-based, for example. Or right. What does that mean?
It means that 20 or 30% of the ingredients in the package come from renewable resources, like from sugar cane or from different kind of starch or corn or etc.
And typically, what would be the other materials that would be combining to make these plastics?
It's not other materials. It's it's the polymers that we buy. What we do in TIPA, we work with compostable materials. We did not invent a new polymer. Okay, so we source compostable materials. We in a certain formula. We work with those materials in a certain formula and create a new material. And our material are the films, rolls of films. We manufacture films, sheets, okay? It looks like, let me show you. It looks like this, okay? So we manufacture those materials, films. So the polymers that we buy are partially bio-based and partially fossil-based. I can say that in each of our films, you can find between 5 to 10 different materials.
So one of the challenges in recycling flexible plastics like bags for food and such is that they're laminates, right?
Right, exactly.
So how about if you speak a little bit about that?
Sure. So the numbers today are that flexible packaging, it's a huge market. It's a market that was last year $102 billion market.
Wow.
And the majority, 95% of flexible packaging is not recycled. The main reason for that is, first of all, it's once a package involves few different materials, like a laminate, for example, different layers of materials glued together, there's no way to recycle it in the recycling infrastructure. And therefore, the majority of the packages, of those packages, 95%, actually end life in landfills. There are other reasons not that flexible packaging is not recycled today, like the economics of it, and usually those packages are contaminated, highly contaminated. So it needs another way. There's no process to clean and then to recycle. The numbers today that are published not by TIPA but with third parties, parties that work on researchers in this market show that the majority, 95% flexible packaging worldwide is not recycled.
So you're actually solving a huge issue when it comes to plastics, because you're kind of going to the top of the chain to disassemble something that was otherwise insoluble, right?
Right.
That's awesome.
At TIPA, we focus on at the end of life, as I said, but also on we focus on flexible packaging, mainly for the food industry. By the way, we work also with the apparel industry, but food and apparel industry. We focus on the food industry. It's very challenging to focus on the food industry, but we do that because the majority of the waste comes from this industry, from the food industry. You can just imagine how many packages each one of us throws away.
It's frightening. I mean, when you start paying attention, it's boggling to see the things that I never thought about. I mean, with cat food, the little pouches for cat food or something, and to understand that they're not going to get recycled.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You just people have to stop just for a minute and think, all this plastic that we manufacture doesn't go anywhere.
Right.
And we're manufacturing tons of plastic packages every day. And recently there was an article published by scientists that say that within 20 or 30 years, it will be above human capacity to handle all this waste. We will not be able to do that. So currently we're worried about what we see in the sea, but that's going to grow. And unless we change that course like this, it goes like this.
Yeah.
So if we manufacture until today the certain amount that I mentioned earlier, within 20 or 30 years, the world will manufacture 4 times of that amount. So whatever we manufactured in the last 40 years, 4 times of that will be manufactured in the next 20 years or 30 years.
We need a radical course change.
We need a change.
Yeah. Yeah. So one of the things that I know we have a time constraint here. So I want to talk about your business model, because you have a really fascinating business model that's enabled you to really scale on a very accelerated trajectory.
Right. So as I mentioned, in TIPA, we started developing the technology a few years ago and protected it with a strong IP. And in the last we also have been doing product market fit to see that we can really replace polyethylene and polypropylene. Those are the conventional plastic films. And we also build a scaling up model. So I'm coming from the software industry. So I think viral growth. And what we developed in TIPA is a unique operational model. From day one, we insisted on manufacturing all our packages, all our materials and packaging through all the supply chain on conventional plastic machinery. So we have here at TIPA engineers team that knows how to work with our films and materials on conventional plastic machinery. And that enables us 3 major things. One of them is to manufacture. We don't invest anything in CapEx, okay? So we work with conventional machinery that is already out there, which enables us to just plug and start manufacturing in a very short period of time. Like within a month or 2, we can start manufacturing in every territory. Second thing is we can manufacture worldwide, close to our clients, and scale up very fast. Okay, so that enables us to have our technology available for almost everyone all over the world. So that's one thing. The other that's the operational model. The sales model, we sell in 2 channels, directly to brands and also to packaging companies. And that also enables us to work with the packaging companies on the availability to supply the packages to their clients and to our clients. to the brands that we work with. So we actually, in the last 2 years, we built the know-how in the market on how to work with our materials, with packaging companies. And now it's ready for the brands to adopt the technology, because we proved product market fit, we proved the ability to manufacture, we proved the ability to scale up, and now it's ready for adoption. And I'm very glad that we got to this point where the market is or the markets are so busy with the question, what are we going to do with plastic? What are the replaceables for plastic? The spotlight is on the plastic problem. We see that a lot in Europe, but also in the US. Companies are seeking for replaceables, seeking for other solutions, for alternative solutions. So we all understand in the world of today, we need packaging. We won't be able to avoid packaging. We need packaging because we ship food from one place to the other. We need to protect the food. We need shelf life. We need packaging, okay? We need packaging. But we have to replace all this plastic that we use.
Yes.
And that's what we offer in TIPA. A solution, we have already proved that it works, a scalable model, and an easy way to adopt, because we know how to escort our clients in the process of changing one packaging solutions and conventional plastic with our packaging solutions. It's a matter of now it's a matter of companies taking the step and moving towards the next generation.
So I have a question. For instance, Glad plastic bags and garbage bags, and would they be one of your customers, for example, where you would be providing the materials to them, or is it more for actual packaging of existing products?
First of all, we can, but there are other companies who do that. Bags, there are solutions for bags. Better or not as such good, or premium or less premium. Bags, it's easy because bags, I'm not saying it's easy, but bags, it's a different market. Bags, you take a bag, you put a few things in it, you go home, you can get rid of the bag. So,
no, I mean like Ziploc bags and things like that.
Yeah. This is
exactly. That's what gave me the idea.
Yeah. So that's it. That's a Ziploc bags. This is actually for fashion, but a Ziploc bag, a bag that is two sides. One is transparent and one is opaque. We also have granola bars packaging, standard pouches, fresh produce, paper-based bags. This is example for a granola bar wrapping, which is still in a roll, but fully printed. So one thing I can surely say, we started our R&D, and our goal was, when we started R&D, our goal was to develop films, sheets that are equal to conventional plastic in terms of the properties and the availability to pack food. Okay, so bags need certain properties, but when you come to packaging, we need strength, certain flexibility, puncture resistance, tearing resistance, sealing abilities, high sealing abilities, temperature resistance abilities, printing, transparency, all this set of properties that are needed for packaging. We can find that in polypropylene, polyethylene, and other materials with conventional plastic. You cannot find it in compostable materials. And that's what we have developed. We developed the ability to replace conventional plastic. So our goal was to be as transparent in terms of the changes as can be to all our supply chains, so to the brands, to the packaging manufacturers, to the packaging lines, and of course for the end user. So for the end user can get the same quality, but with compostable material, package that will not last forever. Package that will actually naturally recycle to soil,
but that has durability And that will hold up to some level of moisture or some,
moisture and oxygen. Yeah. All those properties that are needed to protect the grid.
So Daphna, let me ask you, are there any resources that you would recommend for people to check out? Maybe you could, we'll link to your website. We have a show notes page on sustainabilitynow.global. But if you have any resources or books that you would recommend for people to educate themselves on this topic?
First of all, they can go to our website, and there's a lot of information there. I think we also are going to load information page with all the information that I was talking about earlier. So I can definitely recommend going there. There are a few organizations that can be also approached with more knowledge on compostable materials and the idea of compostability and how to use, etc.
What can you name those organizations for us? Or if you want to provide them to us, we can post them on our website at sustainabilitynow.global. We'll do that.
So I guess our marketing will do that.
Okay, that would be great. And what would be the one thing that you would advise people would be the biggest step that they could take to help with sustainability?
I think I would ask any end consumer, anyone, to ask, is suppliers, why aren't you using compostable materials? That's it.
Wonderful. Wonderful. And right now your products are primarily through Europe, is that correct? Or
yes.
And do you have plans to come to the US?
Yeah, we're already in the US.
You are?
Yeah, we have a sales office in the US. So we started like a few months ago.
Wonderful. Wonderful. And do you have plans ever to be going direct to consumer?
We might do that. We want to have the biggest influence on the market that we can. And that's, we believe that it's harder to go this way, but the B2B influencing businesses to change to our packages has much more influence, long-term influence on the market. So that's why we chose this business model. But we're thinking about going to B2C as well with a few products.
Wonderful. So Daphna, is there a question you wish I had asked you that I didn't ask you?
I think you asked me the most important question. The most important question was, what would you ask an individual to do in order to push this idea? And I would say that again, just ask your providers or manufacturers or the supermarkets or the government, what do you do in order to push compostable solutions, packaging solutions? What do you do? Each one of us has to take a small step in order to push to that change, because this is the only way we can have a better world for our kids.
And on that note, that was beautiful. I just want to say thank you so much for taking the time, Daphna, to be with us today. That was great. And I also want to say thank you to our listeners, because you're the ones that have the power to influence the market and ask the question. And so I want to also thank our producer, Scott Billy. And that's it for today. So until next time, I'm your host, Mira Rubin. Until next time, live your best life, love the world around you, and together we can save the world.
Thank you for listening to Sustainability Now, solutions to shape a world that works. Visit sustainabilitynow.global for resources related to today's program. And be sure to subscribe, share, and follow us on social media.